Audi's R8 is already well on its way to becoming a modern classic, and its first package of revisions have seen the introduction of a lightning-quick S-tronic twin-clutch transmission, a more powerful V10 Plus model, and far-reaching detail changes. All enough to enable this model to continue to take on the cream of the world's supercar elite, rivals who must take this car very seriously indeed. In 1999, Audi entered the Le Mans 24-hour race for the first time. Since then, it has won this legendary endurance event over and over again. Success commemorated in 2006 by the launch of a car that has since become a milestone for the brand. This one, the R8. Before this model arrived, nobody expected Audi to ever be able to create a credible supercar, much less one able to take on and beat Porsche's all-conquering 911. They did. But time moves on, and so does the opposition. By late 2012, all of this model's most direct market rivals had either been relaunched or substantially revised, most notably the new 7th generation Porsche 911, but also impressive new versions of rivals like the Mercedes SL, the Aston Martin DB9 and the Bentley Continental GT. So the R8 package needed refettlement, and it needed to recognise a changing market segment in which most buyers were looking for high-tech, race-style paddle-shift auto transmission. The original version of this Audi could only offer a jerky, old-fashioned R-tronic auto setup that most buyers avoided in favour of the manual box. It was this car's one major failing, so the Quattro GmbH engineers set out to correct it, creating the S-tronic gearbox that most will opt for in the facelifted version that we're going to look at here. Launched in the UK in early 2013, it got minor styling changes, some sparkly LED lights, and the option of a more powerful flagship model, the V10 Plus variant that I'm going to drive here, a car powerful enough to take this R8's challenge well into Ferrari territory. Let's try it. All the ingredients are here for a world-beating supercar. Relatively lightweight, an agile chassis, and a couple of glorious engines. But where Porsche has had 40 years on the market to put these together in world-beating perfection, Audi had to start from a clean sheet at the turn of the century with this R8. It didn't matter. It was brilliant at its original launch, and it still is. The people who developed this car were old-school enthusiasts, intent on delivering the mid-mountage engine configuration that all proper sports cars should have. Maybe that's why you turn the key rather than push a button to start the thing. Maybe that's why there's no PlayStation-style electrical power steering setup. And maybe that's why it sounds so magnificent when you flex your right foot in anticipation of the journey that lies ahead. Now, you'll be wanting the statistics. Even the entry-level R8, that with a 430 PS 4.2-litre FSI V8, manages rest to 62 miles an hour in 4.6 seconds on the way to 187 miles an hour. Figures the 525 PS 5.2-litre FSI V10 model I'm driving here improves to 4.1 seconds and 194 miles an hour. Now that's what you'll achieve if you're quick with the gear stick through the clickety-clack open gate 6-speed manual gearbox that's still available on this car. But I'm guessing that will be a minority choice going forwards. Most will want the S-tronic auto transmission that's been freshly installed in this facelifted R8, replacing the frankly awful jerky R-tronic setup, which was all you could have on the original version if you weren't prepared to swap cogs yourself. In comparison, S-tronic is a revelation, one of these butter-smooth sequential twin-clutch setups that selects the next gear before you've even left the last one, and is so quick between its 7 ratios that it takes 0.3 of a second off the rest to 62 mile-an-hour sprint times. Shifts can be made via the selector lever or through these steering wheel paddles. There's also a sports mode that adjusts the shift pattern to extract the very best from the V8 and the V10 engines. And a launch control function that manages engine speed and permits exactly the right degree of tyre slip for the quickest possible takeoff when accelerating. Seriously, why would you want a manual over this? I've got S-Tronic here on the top R8 that I've chosen to test, the V10 Plus, an R8 built to take Audi's challenge beyond, such as the Porsche 911, and into Ferrari territory. It gets the full-fat version of the 5.2-litre V10, that used by the Lamborghini Gallardo, developing another 25 PS, boosting power to 550 PS and torque from 530 to 540 Newton meters. Now, that's not enough to make a huge difference to the on-paper performance figures. The 0 to 62 mile an hour figure is just a tenth better at 3.5 seconds, but the overall feel of this Plus model is rather different. Why? Well, the weight's been cut by as much as 50 kilograms, thanks to weight savings extracted from the wheels, the seats, the bulkhead, the chassis and the brakes. And the suspension has been sharpened and firmed up. The car's more chuckable into corners as a result, but personally I prefer the overall balance of the more compliant magnetic ride adaptive damping system that's standard on the ordinary R8 V10 but unavailable on this ritzier version. With magnetic ride, you can switch the damping between a taut setup or a more comfort-orientated normal mode. It gives you more options. But that apart, I'm finding it very hard to criticise this car. Coming to it fresh from a stint in a more powerful, pricier McLaren 12C, I'd expect it to be slightly underwhelmed. Instead, this Audi has reminded me all over again just why I loved it in the first place. As with all R8s, this one's so brilliantly driver-orientated, courtesy of the decision to give its Quattro four-wheel drive system a rear-wheel drive bias. Never more than 35% of the torque goes to the front. Throw the car into a corner and it works with you, with perfect driver feedback, no nasty habits, and a lovely hard-edged wail as you thrust towards the 8,000 RPM red line, the horizon rushing towards you as if on fast forward. If you were someone seeking to graduate from the lower to the upper, more powerful tier of supercar ownership, then only one of these would be the perfect way to ease that transition. Visually, the R8 remains a distinctive cocktail of low-slung curves and delightful design extravagance. Ferrari, but with a German twist. But it won't appeal if you like the understated elegance of a Porsche 911 or the max power aggression of a Nissan GT-R. Unlike these two competitors, though, it looks like a £100,000 supercar should. There are many details to soak in: the high-gloss black-finished single-frame front grille, the retractable rear spoiler that extends automatically at 62 miles an hour, and these lovely side blades which channel air to the engine and can be specified in many different colours and finishes. Even the lighting is suitably exclusive. This was the first production car to feature wholly LED lamps front and rear, and in this improved version there are neat strip-like daytime running lights that change themselves into turn signals as you indicate. As for the changes that differentiate a V10 model like this from its humbler V8 counterpart, well, there aren't many. Assuming that you missed the badge work on the wings, visual tweaks are limited to intricate Y-spoke 19-inch wheels, wider sills, enlarged air intakes and different exhausts. Plus, of course, there's the enormous 5.2-litre 10-cylinder engine sitting under a rear transparent cover like a work of art in a display case. The V10 R8 model is impressively light, only 60 kilograms more than the V8 variant, with a total curb weight that can be as little as 1,620 kilograms. A further 50 kilograms has been trimmed off that figure in the top V10 Plus version that I have here. With all variants, it helps that 92% of the body and chassis is fashioned from lightweight aluminium, which is just as well in the case of the Spider soft-top version, as it has another 100 kilograms to carry around, this the inevitable result of fitting it with a beautifully engineered hood that's coupe-like when raised and stows in just 19 seconds at speeds of up to 30 miles an hour. Inside, Where there's what Audi calls a luxury level racing atmosphere, the interior remains an object lesson in how to package a two-seat car with plenty of space, decent visibility and fantastic build quality. Its most distinguishing feature is what the stylists call the monoposto, a stylised large arc that encircles the driver's area of the cockpit, starting at the door and ending at the centre tunnel. Ahead of you there's a grippy, leather-covered, multi-function, flat-bottom sports steering wheel through which you can glimpse a driver information system that can display the speed digitally and offer a lap time function for track days. And boot space, well, your expectations won't be high, and they shouldn't be. There's 100 litres here, room for a couple of squashy bags. Plus, Audi says that there's extra space behind the seats that can accommodate up to, say, a couple of golf bags. But otherwise, you'll be needing to travel pretty light. There are now 3 tiers of R8 coupe ownership. First, the 430 PS 4.2 litre V8 model, priced at around the £95,000 mark. Then the 525 PS 5.2 litre V10, priced from either just over or just under £115,000, depending on derivative. And finally, the variant I'm looking at here, the even faster 550 PS R8 V10 Plus, priced in the £125,000 to £130,000 bracket. Around 82% of customers now want automatic transmission, thanks to the improved 7-speed S-tronic gearbox, which is offered at a £2,900 premium over the 6-speed manual. That might sound expensive, but it's actually less than Audi charges to trim the engine bay in carbon fibre. If you're looking at the open-top Spider version, which only comes with the standard V8 or V10 engines, you'll be paying a premium of around £9,000 over the comparable coupe model, which means budgeting in the £100,000 to £125,000 bracket. As for rivals, well, the closest car in concept to this one has always been Porsche's 911, with a standard Carrera 4S targeted at the R8 V8, the 911 Turbo at the R8 V10, and the 911 Turbo S at the R8 V10 Plus. Depending on the version of the car you're looking at, there might be a small difference between the two brands, but overall you should find, after equalising the spec, that pricing is pretty comparable. But of course, there are plenty of other ways of spending £90,000 to £130,000 on a high-performance sports car with up to or just over 500 PS. I've always thought that for well under £100,000, the V8 version of this Audi looks a far more appealing package than anything other than a 911. But when you start to consider the V10 R8 model that most UK customers want, you start having to think about all kinds of talented opposition. Now, in theory, that could even include a 550 PS Nissan GT-R for less than £80,000, so that wouldn't really deliver the kind of driveway statement that most Audi customers want. Closer would be a BMW M6 or a Jaguar XKR S at just under the £100,000 mark, or a Mercedes SL63 AMG at just over it. But then all of these three are based on lesser, more mundane models. No, these days an R8 V10 customer is more likely to be the kind of person considering a Bentley Continental GT or an Aston Martin DB9. Slower, more style-conscious rivals that are priced respectively at either £7,000 or £17,000 more. And as for this R8 V10 Plus, give this 5.2 litre power plant a thorough workout and the figures say it all, with a rest to 62 mile/hour time of just 3.5 seconds and a top speed in the region of 200 miles an hour. That's quick enough to catapult this car into Mercedes SLS AMG and Ferrari 458 Italia territory, all for around £50,000 less. If, having considered all of this, you conclude that this is the way you want to reward yourself for a lifetime of endeavour, then you'll be expecting an investment just below, or more likely well above, the £100,000 mark to buy you a very well specified car indeed. And by and large, you shouldn't be disappointed. As well as the four-wheel drive system that most rivals lack, all R8 models come with 19-inch alloy wheels, all LED headlamps, DVD satellite navigation and heated seats, trimmed with either part or full leather. And is it worth finding the premium of just over £20,000 to graduate up from V8 to V10 power? Well, if you can afford to, I'd say that it probably is. The extra outlay, after all, gets you not only a pokier engine, but also most of the nice-to-have features that many R8 customers will want. Nappa leather trim on the seats that's extended around the dashboard, lovely LED lights illuminating the engine compartment, a 12-speaker, 465-watt Bang & Olufsen stereo, and perhaps most significantly, the Audi Magnetic Ride Adaptive Suspension System. You don't get the magnetic ride system in this top V10 Plus model, which has its own stiffen damping setup. That, the £10,000 premium, and the fact that it comes only as a coupe may all be reasons why you'd want to stick to the standard V10 R8 variant. Having said that, this particular R8's ability to challenge Ferrari and McLaren so affordably is almost unique in the high-performance sports car market. And, as well as the extra performance, the Plus package also gets you lovely bucket seats, carbon trim on the spoiler, the mirrors and the side blades, gloss black 5-spoke wheels, and the otherwise pricey ceramic brakes. Safety kit is adequate, twin front and side airbags, plus most models have tyre pressure monitoring, and all have the usual electronic assistance features for braking, traction and stability control. As for options, well, you can pretty much bespoke create your R8 to your own personal taste. The side blades of the coupe are available in a choice of 8 colours, while customers in search of more exclusivity can choose from around 100 special paint finishes or have their very own shade mixed. And the cloth top of the R8 Spider is available in black, red or brown. Beyond that, well, if I was looking at the standard V8, I'd want the Audi Magnetic Ride system. If I was looking at the standard V10, I'd want to pay extra for the lovely leather bucket seats. Across the board, nice-to-haves, meanwhile, would include rear parking sensors, a security tracking device for peace of mind, plus, if I could afford it, a bespoke leather luggage set to make the most of the limited boot space. You might also want to pay for the factory collection package that'll fly you to the German Neckarsulm factory to see your car being hand-built prior to your being able to drive it home. When it comes to the ordinary petrol models, Ingolstadt's experience in lightweight aluminium space frame technology has certainly helped this car's cause when it comes to running costs. But let's be real here. No supercar is going to be cheap to run, and this one certainly isn't. In theory, you could get over 25 miles to the gallon if you're cruising gently, but throw in some hard driving spells into your journey and that figure could easily plummet by 10 to 15 miles to the gallon. The 4.2-litre FSI V8 model can manage 22.8 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 289 grams per kilometre of CO2. That's in coupe form. And 22.4 miles to the gallon and 294 grams per kilometre as a Spider. But that's with the 7-speed S-tronic auto transmission fitted. Order your car in 6-speed manual form and those returns will be hit by around 15%. R8 V10 customers will also find that the automatic option is the more frugal one. In this form, the car can return 21.6 miles to the gallon on the combined cycle and 305 grams per kilometre of CO2, that's as a coupe, or 21.2 miles to the gallon and 310 grams per kilometre as a Spider. Figures that, due to its lighter weight, this V10 Plus coupe variant actually improves slightly upon, despite its extra power, returning 21.9 miles to the gallon and 299 grams per kilometre of CO2 in S-tronic form. What else? Well, with only 29 cars each day being hand-built at Audi's Neckarsulm factory, there's enough rarity value about this R8 to keep residuals buoyant, enough to match those of its arch-rival Porsche's 911. There's the standard 3-year, 60,000 mile warranty, and insurance, of course, is a top-of-the-shop Group 50. With the original R8, Audi set out to prove it could build a supercar. But Ingolstadt, it seems, is capable of more than just bringing us a 911 Challenger. With this improved version, the aim was twofold: to perfect the package and to prove it capable of edging up towards the more exclusive territory occupied by Lamborghini, McLaren and Ferrari. A step too far? It seems not. The four rings don't yet give this car the rarefied appeal of a Gallardo, a 12C or a 458 Italia, but in most meaningful respects, this top V10 Plus version can match them car for car. And better still, most of what makes this R8 variant so brilliant can be had for significantly less, with standard V8 and V10 models further down the range that have been significantly improved by the introduction of the slick dual-clutch S-tronic auto gearbox. If you've always liked the idea of one of these, then you'll relish the thought of trying this perfected first-generation version. If, on the other hand, you've previously found reasons to buy something else, perhaps you took against the original version's jerky R-tronic auto gearbox, or maybe you simply wanted something a bit faster, well then this Audi is now well worth another look. Unlike its Italian rivals, it feels bulletproof. Unlike its Porsche arch enemy, it makes a six-figure statement. And unlike any sporting car Audi has yet produced, it's good enough to score a perfect 10.